Kim, I think it's Kim today, isn't it? Kim, are you there?
It's Kim today. Hi, Nicole. Hello, everybody. How are you going over there?
Beautiful. Good to hear your voice. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a beautiful autumn fall day here, and it's hopefully a beautiful spring day over there. So, looking good to making contact with you again. And yeah, we've got some interesting program today on Bowen Therapy technique, which is a wonderful modality. I'd like to talk to you about it.
Wonderful. I'm actually not very familiar with it, so enlighten us. Where would you like to start?
That's what the program's all about, Nicole. Yeah, first of all, most of, well, everybody experiences pain to some degree and some level. Different people have different levels of pain. Different people have different feelings of pain, the intensity of pain. Some people really don't feel pain at all. Some people have a huge response to pain, depending on their own makeup, and so everybody's different. Many of you will know one of my favorite books is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and in one of his chapters is a chapter on pain, which is it's quite short, but it's an interesting view on what pain is. So he goes to say here, and a woman spoke, saying, "Tell us of pain." And he said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is a bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burn your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. It's an interesting perception where he says pain is self-chosen. My own belief is that pain is a process of the body to warn the cognizant person, or the sentient being within, of impending or happening danger to the physical frame, to the physical body. And it is that pain response that allows the body to take whatever remedial action to get away from it is concerned. Many people have chronic pain, long-term pain. It comes from a lot of physical ailments. It also is an emotional pain too, because there's a lot of corollary or similarity between physical pain and grief. And this is a wonderful modality, Bowen Therapy, or Bowen technique, which is it's an Australian therapy modality that was developed by a chappie in the south of Australia here, in a place called Geelong in Victoria, which is, to try and describe it, it's nothing like anything else. It is an energy healing. It is also a physical healing as well. It's not like massage where muscles and tendons are made to get softer or more pliant. It's not like Reiki where you just put your hands onto the body and there's an energy transfer. It's like a combination of everything that you possibly could imagine here. There's a number of studies have been done or are still underway between the positions that the hands are put onto the physical body to facilitate some kind of change from within, and the Eastern meridians, for example, the Chinese meridians. There's a similarity or a correlation between the points we use with Bowen therapy and acupuncture points, for example, acupressure points. But what is Bowtech? Bowtech is like an Australian homegrown therapy. It's called the Bowen technique. It's not B-O-N-E. It's spelled B-O-W-E-N. Now this takes after the instigator or the bloke who established Bowen technique, which is a bloke called Tom Bowen. And I'll go through a number of websites and stuff that is available to a lot of people who have the interest here at the end of the program. But what is Bowtech or Bowen technique? I'm going to read from the information sheets from Bowtech, because it covers it in much greater depth than I can possibly cover it myself here. So it's a dynamic system of muscle and connective tissue therapy that was developed by the late Tom Bowen in Geelong, Australia. Geelong is a town, or now a suburb really, of Melbourne in Victoria. That's in the sort of southern central area or the southeast of Australia. It's sometimes called the homeopathy of bodywork. It utilizes subtle inputs to the body, known as moves, stimulating the body to heal itself, often profoundly. Now this is an interesting thing. We don't, as Bowen practitioners, make changes happen in the body. What we are doing is facilitating the body's response to call or remember a cellular memory within the body of what it was like to be a healthy person. And what it does is draw on that memory and allow the body to do whatever changes and shifts it needs to return back to that feeling of 100% health. So the Bowen technique offers tremendous benefit to clients with very little benefit, let me start it again. The Bowen technique offers tremendous benefit to clients with very little effort on the part of the practitioner. It benefits everybody. It can provide relief for many types of injuries and other health problems, both acute and chronic, and it does so holistically via the body's innate healing mechanisms. The practitioner's moves deliver signals to the nervous system at specific locations, usually on muscles, tendons, ligaments, or nerves, and the body responds in its own time within its own vital capacity. While there are a few very specific situations in which a particular procedure is contraindicated, Bowen technique is appropriate for all people of all ages and all degrees of health. They say a particular procedure is contraindicated. That's often, for example, when in cases of pregnancy, there are moves that are terrifically beneficial in promoting and helping women through pregnancy, but there are moves that can precipitate premature labor, for example, and that we need to avoid, which is why it's important to have terrific training, and we'll cover that as well. So when faced with an acute injury, a Bowen practitioner may effectively apply the work to address only the traumatized areas, since the client has little time to compensate for and accommodate to the injury. Most practitioners, however, find themselves working with clients whose conditions have developed gradually over many years, and patterns of dysfunctional muscle recruitment and posture have become entrenched over time. In these cases, Bowtech practitioners often need to take a more whole body approach to facilitate optimal alignment and recovery. Now this is an important factor because Bowen is not as widely known a technique as perhaps massage or other techniques. Acupuncture, for example, you say that it's not something that you know an awful lot about. But Nicole, what Bowen does is draw on the muscle memory. My own story, my own history of Bowen is that some of you may have heard this before, but in my teens, as a 16-year-old, I was playing rugby in a school rugby match, and we were playing against a much stronger team, a much more muscularly developed team. I think a lot of them were a lot older than 16 years old, for example. And I was in the rugby scrum as a prop, as one of the supporters of the rugby scrum pack. And up against this much stronger team, I felt my neck crack. It was only later that I found that one of my vertebrae had actually had a micro fracture. Excruciating pain, and as a teenager in those days, you just sort of hobbled to the side of the field and came back when you felt okay. There's nothing like the physicians and therapists that you have on the sidelines in any kind of physical hands-on game like this. So for 40 years nearly, I had constant recurring neck pain. My neck was becoming increasingly hooked. My shoulders were becoming increasingly rounded. There's an increasing kyphosis, for example. And I found that I was in pretty much chronic pain for most of the day. And in many cases, things like osteopathy, massage, chiropractic, all these other things did tend to help for some time, a couple of days, but it always returned. And it is only, this was when I was 16, so it is only when I was in my 50s, 40 years later, that I had my first Bowen Therapy treatment. And all my therapist did was the basic balancing moves, which basically knocked my socks off. I was, after such a long period of having this enclosed pain and increasingly tightening muscular system in my neck and back and shoulders, suddenly my body was able to let go of this. So for a few hours I was just lay there in a bit of a daze. And it was only that evening and the following day that I found myself gradually unfolding, almost like you see these time-lapse photographs, time-lapse movies of a fern unfolding or a flower blossoming. It was like that. It felt just like that, with the body gradually unfolding and undoing the chronic tension that had been locked in there for so long. I found also that there's a lot of trauma associated with the injury. So it's not just the physical healing and the physical recovery from the muscles and the tendons and supporting ligaments. There was also the trauma of the event that came up and out as well. So Bowen is a wonderful modality to facilitate some wonderful changes. So rather than focusing on a single complaint, Bowen technique addresses the entire body by restoring balance via the autonomic nervous system, which controls over 80% of bodily functions and is very susceptible to external stresses. This is like the fight or flight syndrome. Most people today live in a constant state of high stress and sympathetic nervous system overstimulation, another fight, flight or freeze mode. Healing can occur only after the nervous system shifts from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. In other words, rest, relax and repair. So going from all the F's into the R's. So Bowen technique enables that shift. During a session, the client often drops into deep relaxation or falls asleep, and loud peristalsis may be heard. In other words, a grumbling of the tummy or gurgling. It's wonderful to hear that, because you know that the process is working. During a session, the client often drops into... but both of these changes are indications of profound release from stress and a shift towards parasympathetic influence. This shift could explain in part the common observation that a Bowen technique session seems to reactivate the recovery process in situations where healing from trauma, sickness or surgery has stalled or reached a plateau. Often we'll find a client, when we've had their first sessions, will often curl up into like a fetal situation, which is the recovery position for any situation. A typical Bowen technique session generally lasts from 15 to 45 minutes. Clients usually lie on a massage or bodywork table or bed, and may be seated in a chair if required for comfort. Often we have clients who have a great difficulty getting up and down onto a couch, for example. They find sitting is much easier. People in advanced stages of pregnancy, for example, will find it much easier just to sit in a chair and have a treatment there. A session involves one or more procedures, each of which consists of several sets of moves, which are gentle but purposeful and can be done through light clothing. So you don't have to get undressed or anything, as it's a very discreet and sensitive process. Between each set of moves, the practitioner pauses for as many minutes as are needed for the client's body to begin responding. As the nervous system begins to adjust the tension level in the muscles, the practitioner senses when the client is ready for the next set of moves. A common approach is a session to balance the entire body by addressing the lower back, then the upper back, and then the procedures that address the back of the client are completed before turning over for procedures that are done with the client lying on his or her back. The little waiting periods are necessary to allow the signals to travel from the muscles or the tendons that we work on, the soft tissues, back up to the brain, for the brain to go into the filing system and to remember what it is like to be that healthy, vibrant, energetic person again, to retrieve those files, to then understand what is necessary to put whatever recovery instructions back down the nervous system, and then send those signals back down to the area that we're working on. So it often takes 2 or 3 minutes for that process to work. So in contrast to other hands-on modalities where the practitioner imposes correction on the client through manipulation, Bowen technique facilitates the body and healing itself with minimal intervention. Because of the subtle nature of Bowen technique and the body's continuing response to it over several days thereafter, other forms of manipulative therapy are discouraged for up to 5 days after a session, as they may interfere with the efficiency or efficacy of the work. Now that's an interesting one here as well. We certainly recommend that no other form of physical treatment is done on a patient or on a client. I do find that as a practitioner of multiple therapies, I'm a Reiki master as well, I do find that the body dictates what it needs as well. And often I will find that a client who has multiple things happening at the same time, I often find that the patient will call, or the body will call for Reiki to come through automatically as well. And I do find, I don't implement it myself, but I do find that I think, okay, well, that's funny, my hands are getting hot here. The patient's saying there's something other than the tingling that is often associated with the Bowen therapy session. And I find that the Reiki does go through and complement the Bowen rather than the Bowen complementing the Reiki. So history of Bowen. Thomas Ambrose Bowen, who was born in 1916 and died in 1982, began developing his technique in the 1950s in Geelong, Australia. He was in fact the Geelong football club physiotherapist, and he found that this was a way of, he just saw something different working with his clients than when he was putting his hands in specific areas rather than just massaging. So Tom Bowen became interested in ways to alleviate human suffering and began to notice that certain moves on the body had particular effects. He developed his technique without having previous formal training in any modality or discipline. In fact, he frequently stated that his work was a gift from God. He continued to develop and refine that technique through his lifetime with the help of his friend and secretary Renee Horwood. Mr. Bowen was extremely busy in his Geelong clinic, performing about 13,000 treatments a year. Now, that's quite a phenomenal amount. This was verified by the 1975 Victorian Government inquiry into alternative healthcare professionals. Considering treatments were 7 days apart and most people needed only 1 to 3 treatments, an amazing number of clients passed through the clinic and benefited from his gift. He also had held free clinics for children, people with disabilities, and community service workers. And that's something we try and promote through Bowen nowadays as well, we do have a lot of facilitation of greater good work as well. For example, we may have been aware that we've had some terrific floods in the northern parts of New South Wales here in Australia, and some Bowen practitioners were over there to help people recover from not just the physical problems of going through flood, but also the emotional trauma. We've had Bowen therapists go up to the Far East, for example, through after the tsunamis, for example. They've helped in villages' recovery. So, in 1974, while attending a national health conference in Adelaide, Australia, Oswald Wrench met Mr. Bowen for the first time. Although he knew nothing of Mr. Bowen's work, Ozzy spontaneously asked if he could learn from him. Mr. Bowen took Ozzy's hand, held it for some time and said, "Good, come down and I'll teach you. I'll call my secretary and let you know." And a couple of hours later, Mr. Bowen sought out Ozzy and said, "You be down on the clinic next Wednesday at 9 a.m. For the next 2.5 years, Ozzy studied Mr. Bowen's technique, ultimately being authorized by him to document the work. Mr. Bowen had no notes, charts or manuals, but with the help of Renee Horwood, Ozzy produced a true representation of Mr. Bowen's original technique. So in 1976, Ozzy and his wife Elaine began utilizing Mr. Bowen's methods in their clinic in Hamilton and Victoria in Australia. Honouring Mr. Bowen's request to teach the work after his death, Ozzy and Elaine named it the Bowen Technique and held their first seminar in Perth, Australia in 1986. So it's a very recent technique. By 1990, Ozzy and Elaine were teaching full-time throughout Australia and dedicated to preserving the technique and ensuring it was taught in its original form. They founded the Bowen Therapy Academy of Australia in 1987, eventually naming the technique Bowtech, the Bowen Technique. Since then, Ozzy and Elaine have introduced Bowtech to many countries, honouring the promise Ozzy made to Mr. Bowen on his deathbed to spread his work throughout the world. They are now supported in this teaching by a large faculty of dedicated instructors who are accredited by and registered with the Academy. Because this technique is so effective, it has been widely embraced by a broad spectrum of people. Health professionals are impressed by the effectiveness of the Bowen Technique and the diversity of problems addressed by it. Now, how does the Bowen Technique work? There are many theories about the physiological mechanisms by which the Bowen Technique brings about the results for which it is famous. In addition to the rebalancing of the autonomic nervous system, Bowtech moves and procedures may reset the body to heal itself by activating, through the nervous and endocrine systems, among others, the following mechanisms. There's the stretch reflex. So most moves are done either at the origin, insertion, or the belly of muscles where receptors are located, informing the nervous system on the state of tension, length, or stretch in the muscular tendinous tissue. There are joint proprioceptors, which are all moves are done around a joint, directly affecting the joint capsule and ligaments that are richly innervated with proprioceptors. Now these are big words, but they basically energize the nervous system. And there is the fascia. The fascia it's like a jelly-like substance that is surrounding all the organs and the tissues within the body, keeps everything in its place, for example. So each Bowen move is done at the level of superficial fascia and affects the relationship between the fascia and the nerve, muscle, or tendon being mobilized. Fascia plays a major role in muscle coordination, postural alignment, and overall structural and functional integrity. Now, the fascia is very highly electrically conductive, so we treat the body as a whole, and because of that, one move on an ankle, for example, can have a resultant effect in the knee, the hip, even up to as far as the shoulder and the head. Um, segmental viscosomatic spinal reflexes. Several Bowtech moves engage these reflexes, so they are referred reactions to the internal organs through stimulation of the skin, muscles, and nerves. There's a harmonic vibration or resonance model, which the bonework moves set up vibrational patterns which bring the body back into balance and harmony. Clients who have a bone treatment often refer to, oh gosh, that I can feel a tingling or a bubbly sensation on my skin, for example, and that's often the harmonic vibration or resonance. The lymphatics are affected through the Bowen technique as well. They activate draining of the lymphatics, stimulating the nervous system. There's a detoxification is often initiated, which improves the body's ability to function at a cellular level. So it's all wonderful stuff. We treat the body as a whole, but there are often very profound and localized responses, but they do tend to work across the body as a whole. And a client will often report sensations moving around the body as each part of the body along that anatomy train is activated. A Bowtech session is a complementary modality in the sense that it enhances and complements but not interfere with traditional medical attention. So you can have conventional medical attention at the same time, and of course we would never countermand any kind of medical practitioner's recommendations or medication. Bowtech's input to the nervous system is very subtle and the body responds over time. For that reason, it's best to avoid other manipulative therapies for several days. So that's why we suggest, we recommend don't have a massage or anything else that may tend to alter or divert the instructions going into a body. The ideal time for a Bowtech session is immediately after an injury. That way your body can overcome the trauma before it begins to compensate for it. The compensations often create more problems in the long run than the initial trauma itself, which is probably the case that I had in my own neck injury. Had bone been available then, it may not have ever complicated to the degree that it had over the ensuing 40 years. If you can't get to a Bowtech practitioner immediately, the sooner you can, the better. Within 3 days is ideal for the quickest and most complete recovery. Many people don't find out about Bowtech until weeks, months, or even years of trying other approaches or learning to live with it. If that's the case with you, you'll get the best results from your Bowtech if you don't have any other forms of body work for 4 days beforehand. Avoid heavy exercise on the day of your session. Don't use heat or ice on the site of their injury. Wear or bring lightweight, loose-fitting clothing that your practitioner can work through. Or be prepared to be worked on in your underclothes, undersheets or blankets for modesty and comfort. As a bodywork practitioner, we always drape our clients in anything that's appropriate to promote that feeling of security and being nurtured. Often we have people who contact us for a Bowen therapy session as a last resort. And I'd like to cover a few recommendations or sessions from other people who've had some wonderful responses. But first of all, I'd like to play just a little bit of music here. It's called The Forest Acre. And I'd like to, this is from Katherine's beautiful CD here. Enjoy it. Isn't that beautiful? That's available on Katherine Bright's website, or through her website. It's one of her beautiful CDs that she's done. Wonderful music for meditation and just to relax by. Now, a lot of people have come to Bowen as a last resort, as I say. But what about other living creatures? Do other animals, do other living things benefit from Bowen? Of course they do. Because we are working on a nervous system, there's no reason why other creatures cannot benefit from Bowen as well. And for many people who have animals of, dogs, cats, rabbits, horses, sheep, any living creature that has a nervous system can benefit from this as well. And often we find our own pets have rheumatism, arthritis. They're having difficulty moving around, or they have had some sort of broken limb, for example. And interestingly enough, there's Bowtech for animals as well, which was established in 1990. Many people in and around Geelong, Australia, tell stories of how Tom Bowen saved the life, or the racing career, in fact, of their dogs and horses. This work continues around the globe through EMRT and CCMRT Animal Bowtech, developed in 1990 by an Australian, Alison Goward, who is fulfilling a lifelong passion to help the horse. One of our EMRT practitioners in Australia is still working in the same trotting stables Tom Bowen worked in 50 years on. And again, in the Bowtech website, there's a lot of information on that one. So there have been some wonderful results on animals as well. And it's not just pets, of course, but also high-value horses, for example. And not to put a dollar value on health, but these creatures are often the livelihood of a lot of people. And some people have had their own Bowen Therapy on themselves, and then find, okay, I'll maybe try that on my pet. And there are Bowen therapists who will work on your animals as well. It certainly has a lot of success there as well. Now, with any modality, with any healing modality, there needs to be training and some kind of standards. We need to ensure that the education and the technique is maintained. I had the privilege of meeting both Ozzy and Elaine Wrench, and wonderful people they are too, because they do travel about the world promoting Bowen. And through the Bowen Therapy Academy, a lot of standardizations are necessary here. There are, as with any modality, some offshoots or splinter groups, but I find that the Bowen technique through Ozzy and Elaine Wrench that they've promoted from Tom Bowen directly, they've established quite a comprehensive control and measurable, and that's an important thing here as well, as measurable responses here. So the Bowen Therapy Academy of Australia is the original source for the teaching of Bowtech. It's the pioneering work of the Academy both in Australia and overseas. It has seen the spread of Bowen therapy to over 25 countries worldwide. It set the standard for modular learning programs, continuing education programs, which are very important, specialized Bowen procedures to enhance practitioners' skills, and there's also specialized Bowen procedures too as well. So there's the master's diploma as well. There are approved workshops in specific clinical situations, niche areas, etc., such as sports, mind, body, back pain, mother and baby, chronic fatigue, stroke, etc. So there are specialists who go on to evolve the procedure in other more specific areas. There are practitioner review workshops, it's an annual requirement that each registered practitioner attends a certain number of review workshops. They have recognize training programs and refresher programs to ensure that they are up to date. There are instructor training programs because we have a program to encourage and develop new instructors, because as the technique becomes more international, of course we're going to need more instructors around the world. And again, I'll give you a few details on who to contact there. So it underpins knowledge, anatomy and physiology, clinical skills, and to ensure well-qualified practitioners. So we are holistic practitioners. We are not necessarily qualified in medications, but we can understand what the medications do and the effect that it may have. The BOTEC also publishes the Bowen Hands, which is a quarterly journal of the Academy, and there are international BOTEC conferences in Australia, USA and Europe, for example. So in the Bowen Therapy courses, you'll learn a comprehensive health system that will enable you to aid the recovery from a large range of internal and musculoskeletal conditions. You will learn procedures that balance the body overall, as well as the range of procedures that address specific areas of the body. After receiving your initial qualification, you will then have the opportunity to join a number of postgraduate bone therapy training courses, including the special procedures 1 and 2. And I would recommend any therapist attend those as well, because they do go into much more comprehensive and really quite profound healing processes. So each bone module consists primarily of hands-on training. So there are basically 7 modules to get to your basic qualification. A lot of that is in classroom training over a couple of days, and you'll then go on to some online training courses as well after that, that are part of each module. You will learn through demonstration and immediately practice what you have learnt. During the last 4 modules, you will be required to complete a theory test. During the duration of your bone therapy training, you will also be required to complete case studies outside of your hands-on BOTEC training. Now, in Australia, nationally recognized qualifications are available for bone therapy, and in Australia, a lot of the health funds, for example, will cover bone therapy treatments because of the standards and the standards that are already accepted and understood by the controlling authorities. Bone therapy is taught by registered BOTEC instructors. On completion of the courses, accredited practitioners can register with the Academy and their local country association. A strict code of ethics applies to all accredited practitioners. And thanks to the continuing work of BOTEC, the bone technique is now globally is a globally recognized healing modality. Let's have a look at where bone associations are around the world. Of course, there's Australia, which is where we originated. There's Austria. So I'm going to go through this alphabetically here. So there's the Bone Association of Austria. There's a Canadian Bone Work, or the BOTEC Group, the CBBG in other words. In Germany, there's the Bone Association of Germany. There's bone in India, called the Bone or BOTEC Therapy Association of India. It's in Italy, with the Bone Association of Italy there. There's Norway, BOTEC Norge. Portugal, Associação Portuguesa de Terapeutas de Bone. I apologize about my accent there, but I hope that's correctly pronounced there. There's John Wilkes in Sweden, who promotes BOTEC. The Bone Association of Turkey. United States is Bowen USA, a nation of bone practitioners. Bulgaria is the Bone Therapy Association of Bulgaria, or the BTAB. Denmark, there's the Bone Association of Denmark. Greece, Bone Association of Greece there. Bone Association of Ireland. New Zealand Bone Therapy Incorporated. BOTEC Polish Association, so we're in Poland as well. We're in South Africa, Bone Association of South Africa. Switzerland, Bone Association of Switzerland. And the UK, Bone Association UK, which is their head office there. I would suggest anybody who is in need of bone and doesn't have knowledge of a bone practitioner in your area, get onto the website, which is bowen.com or bowtech.com. I do apologize. www.bowtech.com. In there is a little link to locate a practitioner. You'd simply go into that little window and you can put in your country, your postcode, your address, and up will come a list of registered practitioners within reach of your local area there. So bowtech.com, locate a practitioner, and you'll be able to find somebody who's quite close to you. Now, we've talked about a lot of people coming to us as a long-term chronic condition. My own situation, I in fact married my bone practitioner, my bone therapist. My beloved wife Katherine is the person that gave me my first bone treatment, and we haven't turned back from there since I started as a client, and now I'm a husband. So all things are possible with Bowen. I'd like to mention just a couple of my own experiences with my own clients here. Sylvia, who's in Port Macquarie here, has a testimonial on my own website. Says, on a Friday morning I had a fall in the garden and smashed my face on the tiles. I saw Kim on Saturday afternoon. He saw that my left shoulder, neck and spine were out of alignment from the fall, and also pressing on the nerve in my left elbow, which made movement very difficult. After one visit during which he gently realigned shoulder, spine and neck, I felt like my fall was a distant memory. My friends who saw me didn't believe I had even had a fall. She goes on to say in the most glowing terms, he is the most amazing healer, and I'm so thankful that he and Katherine live in Port Macquarie and are able to share the wonderful gifts of healing and positivity with the people in this town. So thank you, Sylvia. But there's another one from a chronic person with, she had chronic fatigue syndrome and a lot of difficulties over. So Sylvia came to us after a recent injury. Charmaine came to us after a number of years. So in the past 2 years, I have suffered from chronic head pain consisting of nerve pain pulses at the right side of my head, along with head pressure and varying constant sensations, which led me to be bedridden or unable to do basic things like drive a vehicle and daily activities. I haven't been able to run for the past 2 years. My life was severely affected by the daily chronic pain and other symptoms. During the past 2 years, I had various medications which were unsuccessful, numerous CT scans, MRIs, and seen specialists with no result to the pain and no relief. I was also receiving regular specialist therapy for my cervical spine to assist with the nerve pain in my head. Although this helped a bit, it wasn't successful in curing the extensive pain or eliminating the ongoing problems. That's the situation I had with my own situation, where other therapies did help, but they didn't cure it. This then resulted in my desperate search for an alternative medicine or therapy that would help me with the pain. I wasn't expecting miracles, and in fact had resigned myself to the fact that I would like this for the rest of that it would be like this for the rest of my life. I had my first consultation with Kim Bright and slowly started to feel different, and then after subsequent sessions began to notice changes in my symptoms and in my overall health. The pain I had in my hip that had also been unable to resolve through the doctors had begun to disappear, and my body started to feel more aligned, and I noticed my digestive system seemed to be feeling better, and other internal parts seemed to work better as well. My left shoulder was properly aligned with my right for the first time in my life, and had stayed that way. Prior to our sessions, I felt blocked both physically and emotionally. For some reason beyond my understanding, since receiving your treatment, I'm feeling better every day and can only attribute this to the Bowen Therapy. It has been amazing that a treatment that is so non-invasive has had such a huge impact on my health and well-being, and I believe it has returned me to a better state of health than I have felt in the past 2 years. I have found Bowen Therapy has not only worked effectively on my body, but my overall health, and I'm still surprised at how it continues to work on my mind and body and alter or eliminate the intensity of these symptoms. I'm so grateful and glad that I found you and found Bowen Therapy. It has literally given me hope for my future and helped me find a treatment to help me with my symptoms. Thank you so much for giving me the ability to live a normal life, look after my children and function as a person. I am hopeful that the health improvements will continue and that I will keep on feeling and seeing this well into the future. Now, this is written some time ago by Charmaine, and I see her on every 4 to 6 weeks for a little top-up, and she's had some remarkable life-changing benefits from this. There's another one here from a lady also in Port Macquarie I have osteoarthritis in my spine which presses down on my sciatic nerve and causes debilitating pain in my right thigh and down the back of my right leg. The rheumatologist told me to exercise and take anti-inflammatories. A chiropractor could not help me, nor could a Pilates practitioner. I went to see Kim as I was getting to the stage where I couldn't stand or walk for long periods. He worked gently on my sciatic nerve using Bowen technique, and I'm happy to say that I can now carry on my life as normal. I would thoroughly recommend Kim and Bowen Therapy. I certainly attest to Bowen Therapy as a wonderful, non-invasive way. We talk about healing trauma. Now, Bowen is certainly a soft tissue therapy. It's also wonderful for working on emotional trauma, and there's one from one of our instructors here about a chap called Matteo, who's a very frightened 8-year-old boy. This is her words here. A very frightened 8-year-old boy slid through my door, hiding behind his mother, his big anxious eyes darting everywhere. He spotted my big old piano and with my nod of approval began to strike the keys. Next off to my cheerful airy kids room and a demonstration of move to elbow wrist procedure on his mother's arm to watch her middle finger pop. They talk about a middle finger pop. It's a little move that the finger does involuntarily. It just triggers a nerve there. He laughed and offered his own arm for a try. Eagerly he hopped onto my table, and after the baby bone procedure, which I chose for step 1, Matteo rolled into the fetal position while he was listening to his mother telling the whole story of his life. Matteo was adopted from Colombia. After 8 months alone in an orphanage, quite a daunting start for a baby. His mother had come seeking help because of his challenging behavior at school. His teachers were at a loss as there seemed to be no way to calm him, and his mum was constantly being called to take him home. Now, after only 4 gradually progressing Bowen sessions, always after play on the piano, Matteo proudly earned the right to sit on the most improved child seat at the school assembly. The school has agreed to shorten his hours at school, which will gradually be increased, and his special aide is full of praise for his improved behavior. He even told her he isn't shaking inside anymore. So in combination with a very loving mum and dad, a very supportive school and teacher's aide, after-school activities of swimming and football, and the most important of all, our super special Bowen technique, Matteo has had the chance of experiencing a happy and happier life. It brings tears to my eyes. So thank you, Anne, our instructor from Australia here. I notice the time is creeping on here, and I've got lots of other testimonials to go through here, but I would suggest people just look on the website botech.com or on my own website kimbrightaustralia.com. I also have our clinic website, which is crestwoodnaturalhealthclinic.com, and also Catherine's website, which is katherinebrightaustralia.com. So have a look at all of those. There are links to all of those, and of course the News for the Soul website will have links to both of our websites there as well. So give Bowen a try. It is a wonderful non-invasive healing technique. The bottom line is first do no harm, and everybody does respond in some beneficial way to Bowen. It may not be immediately apparent, so people may not be physically able to take up their bed and walk after one session, but there's always some beneficial response. We don't cure things like missing limbs, for example, but we can help with the trauma and the emotional pain and the difficulty that goes with often a bone condition. So although it's a soft tissue therapy, the muscles and tendons, it can benefit from physical skeletal conditions as well. So give bone a try. There's no harm in it. Often it is beneficial long term, and we treat the body holistically. And often we have clients who come back with their families, their children. Pregnant mums, for example, we help them through the pregnancy, and we would go on to treat their little bubs into becoming wonderful little children and adults themselves. So give bone a try. www.botech.com. Give it a bash. Have a look at your local association. You can often look up Bowen Technique or Botech in your local area. It will often give you some indicators of what to expect and where to go. I think that's about it from us to you. There are other modalities we'd love to cover, such as Reiki, but that's for another day. And it's been lovely talking to you. My website, I am open to consultations. I would have liked to have taken a few callers today, Nicole, but unfortunately that'll have to be for next week, love. But KimBrightAustralia.com, love to speak to you. The information is on the website there, KatherineBrightAustralia.com. For Catherine's website, there's also links on Catherine's website to hypnosis, for example. There's a lot of other situations that can be helped through Catherine's stuff as well. I am open to consultations long distance, so Skype or telephone as well. And we've had some wonderful results actually. Although Bowen is a hands-on modality, we've tried a few little successes with long distance, so transmitting Bowen energetically, which is a whole new field altogether, and there's some good studies being done on that. So from us, Katherine and Kim Bright down in Australia, to you guys in Canada and the rest of the world, I think our time is up. I look forward to making contact with you again next week. Stay well. If you're not well, give Bowen a try. It'll help in some way. And Nicole, lovely talking to you, love, and we're looking forward so much to coming up to Canada in June and July and meeting you all face to face. It'll be a great session. Looking forward to that one very much. Getting quite excited down here. So have a look on the News for the Soul website. Have a look on the News for the Soul website. There's information about that too. So from us to you, stay well. Tune in next week. Lovely talking to you.